Depending on the character's roles, some liberties to keep the plot moving are unrealistic. What I'm focused on is learned behavior, something you see over time. And that is why I like series, because it starts to develop a character into a person and it constrains the writer into how the character can react. If you violate the spirit of the character, then you soon will find interest in the books will disappear. While the thoughts are inspired by the book, it does not imply the writer intended to inspire the thoughts I have. Wade Cochran, afraid of being out of the closet, is blackmailed by Peter Oates' father. In fear, after finding the body, he almost allows Peter Oates to take the fall for the murder. Cochran's mother forces him to come forward when Dave Branstetter outs Wade. She is still so sure of her religion, sure that her son is irredeemable. This is why Wade is so afraid in the first place. Not that God will hate him, or that he should be ashamed or unforgivable or flawed in some way. Just being rejected by someone who raised them and offered unconditional love at birth. So didn't want to disappoint that person. He is killed on Dave's doorstep. Even after that, his mother still is unable to find the unconditional love that she denied her son in life. How can any parent refuse to understand? God chose the soul, put it in the body, chose the parents to place the child with, yet be so sure the child couldn't be forgiven by God. Clearly, the mother, as many families did back then, and some still do, by the way, is too rigid. They use words written by man, put into a book by other men to surrender free thought. Yet, in the same religions, it is accepted God is all-powerful, never makes a mistake, that he gave us free will. It is society that demands we disown the gift to follow blindly others with no more knowledge than we have. Just sounds more convinced they are right. Is God really schizophrenic? His followers seem to believe this. At the same time, they insist God never makes a mistake. When challenged on this oddity, they respond by further making no sense. They create an equal to God. The alternative is to face the reality. The only thing we can be sure of is God created us. We have free will, and sorrow is caused by humanity's efforts to destroy individuality. Some will say this will mean chaos. I do not see it that way. To live together, a balance between society and individual requires some concessions to free will. This is also a choice. If you give away everything to society and bad things happen, is it somehow better than if a individual acts alone and commits acts without thinking of the consequences? Both are actions taken from an absence of self-awareness, empathy for others' needs, and humility. God gave us a great gift, but like all caring parents, not freedom from the consequences of your decisions. If bad happens on earth, it is humanity's fault, not God's. Forcing your child into a straitjacket exercises none of these three things. You are not self-aware of your role in God's plan. He did choose the child to be under your protection. Could it be you are being tested, not the child? Not empathy, you demand the child deny all God placed in their reach. As for today's children arguing no gender or trans species, I would point to the child's need to be self-aware of their surroundings. A parent should point out at a certain age it's time to leave childish fantasy and embrace reality. I was told around 5 years old, aren't you a bit old to be doing this? You shouldn't be so rigid you destroy creativity, but too soft you deny them the knowledge of balance. You are a parent and should be instructing the child to live in the real world. That is not denying God's gift to point this out. Maybe if you would spend more time accepting your child as God made them, more in raising a healthy, well-adjusted child, they wouldn't need to live in fantasy at age 20 plus years. Humility is the most important to me. Having it, you understand you are only one part of a three-part puzzle. Trust God has a plan. Trust you raise the child to identify right and wrong. Trust the child will embrace both your teachings and God's gift and incorporate that into their life. They will make mistakes if you teach them to think before they act, to learn what behavior caused them to get in trouble, attempt to correct that moving forward, then free will is not dangerous. It is a blessing. Society, family, and individuals all shape us from birth to death. Respect the gift, trust yourself, and respect others. It might be chaotic at times. We are not perfect. God made us, so why wouldn't He understand we will make mistakes? He and you understand what is in your heart. You know if you learn from the mistakes, even if you delude yourself. I believe a part of you is aware. That is where shame comes in. While the thoughts are inspired by the book, it does not imply the writer intended to inspire the thoughts I have. The attempt is to start a discussion and get people to think about human behavior from the perspective of the closet. How this might lead to problems that make friends or partners or even business relationships difficult. I can understand why some would dismiss this effort. I find reminders in how the characters behave with memories of my own experiences and then explore that aspect. It's meant to start people to think. It is not meant to imply I am right. If you do not share the ideals with others, then how will you know if you're right? When talking, the focus should be on challenging and exposing your ideas, not in changing other opinions. That would only lead to frustration, since the only person you can change is yourself.